Good morning, children. I am Priya, English teacher. On the onset, I must welcome you to this brand new session of Learning Online. Today we are going to discuss about the lesson The Best Christmas Present in the World from the Honeydew textbook of grade 8 CBSE. So children, be ready with your book and with a pencil in your hand to underline the difficult vocabulary. Now open chapter 1, The Best Christmas Present in the World. In case if you don't have books, you can join me in the presentation in which the lesson was typed and saved in the PDF format. Children, before entering into the lesson, let me read the contents of the story. Number 1, Introduction. Introduction of the author and the story. Number 2, Structure and plot of the story. And second part, let's read line by line explanation of the story and discussion of difficult words and their meanings. Number 3, analysis, discussion of the theme of the story. Here in the introduction part, I am going to tell you about the author and the outline of the story. The second part, we are going to discuss the lesson by reading each and every line and underlining the difficult vocabulary and discussing about their meanings. Number third, analysis. Once we finish with the lesson, and we are going to analyze the textbook part, summary part, and then at last I am going to play you a animated video. So through that video you can analyze that story from the teaching part and the textbook part so that you could get a whole structure of the story. Children, let me introduce the author to you. This story was written by Michael Morpurgo. He is a British writer and author of over 100 books, mostly for children, and many of which have given many prizes and awards. And he is a famous and award-winning English author and poet. And he is also known best for children's novels like Private Peaceful, War Horse, and The Amazing Story of Adolphus Tips. And this present lesson, The Best Christmas Present in the World, is a touching story written by Michael Morpurgo. Here comes the structure of the story. The story is divided into three parts. Part 1. The narrator buys an old table from a pawn shop just before Christmas. He finds a letter inside it written in 1914. Part 2. The letter is written by Jim McPherson, a school teacher enlisted in the British Army as a soldier, and to his wife Connie on 26 December 1914. He tells her how he celebrated Christmas along with the German soldiers, laughing, drinking and playing football. Part 3. The narrator goes to visit the woman and returns the letter to her. He finds her in a nursing home, a patient of dementia. She confuses him with her husband and is excited to see him. Children, coming to the explanation, this story talks about World War I, which took place during 26 July 1914 to 11th November 1918 between the British and German. And it conveys that war and fight only brings sadness and humiliation all over the world. One should generally follow the path of peace for attaining happiness in the world. The synopsis of the story is: the author finds a letter written many decades ago by a soldier who mentions how easily enemies become friends. Children, to structure the story in a simple way, we can structurize the story in a simple way, that it means in 2 or 3 lines. Like, The narrator buys an old desk and finds a letter in it. It was written by an English soldier, Jim McPherson, to his wife, Connie, whom the narrator goes to meet and hand over the letter. Children, let us start our text part. So be ready with your textbooks open and with a pencil to underline. When I say underline the word, just underline it and I will explain the meaning. Now text part. I spotted it in a junk shop in Bridport, a roll top desk. The man said it was early 19th century and oak. I had wanted one, but they were far too expensive. This one was in a bad condition. The roll top in several pieces, one leg clumsily mended. Underline the word clumsily mended. Scotch marks all down one side. Underline the word scotch marks. It was going for very little money. I thought I could restore it. Underline the word restore. It would be a risk, a challenge, but I had to have it. I paid the man and brought it back to my workroom at the back of the garage. Students, underline the word garage. Here we should not pronounce it as garage. It is a garage. I began work on it on Christmas Eve. Now my explanation part. Children, the story starts with the narrator who had wished to buy a roll top desk. It means here the roll top desk means it is the top of the desk that can be opened and closed in the upward direction. The narrator went to a junk shop in Bridport and found a very old roll top desk for a low cost, and that desk was clumsily mended. Here clumsily mended means it was in a very poor condition and has scotch marks on it. Scotch marks means it has some burnt marks, like one leg of the desk was damaged and the desk looks like clumsily mended, like it was burnt and it was not in proper condition. Now the narrator thought, as it was of very low value, he could buy it and restore it. Restore means repairing. He took that as a challenge. Here our narrator took that as a challenge because if he could repair the desk, it would be more useful for him. So he may get many benefits, right? Then he paid the man of the shop. He paid the man, the shopkeeper, and brought it back to his garage. I mean to his workshop at the house, a small like storage room in his house where he does all this repair work, and started to work on it on Christmas Eve. Now text part. I removed the roll top completely and pulled out the drawers. The veneer had lifted almost everywhere. Underline the word veneer. It looked like water damage to me. Both fire and water had clearly taken their toll on this desk. Underline the three words, ma. Taken their toll. The last drawer was stuck fast. Underline the word stuck fast. I tried all I could to ease it out gently. In the end, I used brute force. Underline the word brute force. I struck it sharply with the side of my fist and the drawer flew open to reveal a shallow space underneath. Underline the word underneath, children. A secret drawer. There was something in there. I reached in and took out a small black tin box. Sellotaped to the top of it was a piece of lined notepaper and written on it in shaky handwriting, Jim's last letter, received January 25th, 1915, to be buried with me when the time comes. I knew as I did it that it was wrong of me to open the box, but curiosity got the better of my scruples. It usually does, right? Okay. Here, explanation part. Our narrator, when he started working on the desk, when he started repairing the desk, he noticed that the entire veneer means a coating, like a layer used on the wood. Children, I think you all might have noticed that something, a layer like mica, like a plastic sheet, it will be top on the wood of cot or tables like that, just to attract, just to look attractive. So that sort of veneer was totally damaged all over the desk. So he pulled off, like peeling, he pulled off the whole veneer. He also saw that both fire and water had taken their toll. Fire and water had taken their toll means both fire and water had damaged the desk. It means like the desk was damaged due to fire and water, as if the desk got fired and someone might have poured water in it. So in that combination, both fire and water might have damaged the desk. Understood? Next, the narrator was dismantling the desk in order to repair it. He was dismantling, he was just removing all the parts separately in order to repair the desk. And during this process, he was opening all the drawers of the desk. But one particular drawer was stuck fast. Children, stuck fast means it is tightly closed and he was unable to open it. So she used some brute force to open it. Brute force means adding more force and energy to pull the drawer. When the drawer opened, he noticed something interesting. The narrator noticed something interesting. There was a secret drawer in it that he saw. When the drawer opened, he saw a secret drawer in it, and he saw a small black tin box. Black tin box means like a steel or metal box. He saw that kind of box in that drawer. On the top of that box, he saw a paper sellotaped with a shaky handwriting on it. Jim's last letter, received January 25th, 1915, to be buried with me when the time comes. And now, here our author is very curious. Here he goes. Our narrator was in dilemma now. He is in a confused state because he was curious to open the letter and read. On the other hand, he knew that it was not appropriate to open the other's letter. His curiosity scruples him. Here the meaning of scruples means making him not to do that, like something stopping him not to do something wrong. He feels that opening others' letter is wrong. So his curiosity is getting worse. But on the other hand, he even knew that he is not doing the proper thing. Coming to the text part. Inside the box there was an envelope. Underline the word envelope. The address read Mrs. Jim McPherson, 12 Copper Beeches, Bridport, Dorset. I took out the letter and unfolded it. It was written in pencil and dated at the top December 26, 1914. Children, coming to the explanation part, at the end, now our narrator opened the letter with having all sort of confusions in his mind. And it was a letter written by Jim McPherson to his wife Connie McPherson. And this letter had an envelope. Children, do you know envelope? Never pronounce this word as envelope. It is not envelope. You have to pronounce it as envelope. I think you have an idea of what an envelope means. It means an outer cover, some brown or white color on which we used to mention our to and from address, right? And that envelope had an address, and that envelope had an address of Mrs. Jim McPherson, 12 Copper Beeches, Bridport, Dorset. Look here. Now our narrator started to read the letter, and in that letter it was written with a pencil, and at the top, in the top of the letter, some corner, right corner or left corner, at the top of the letter, it was written as December 26, 1914, and it was written with a pencil. Students, this is the end of part 1, and let us conclude with a small recap. Here, the narrator bought an old table from a junk shop. He described the poor condition of the table, how it looked. Later, he found a letter and told that it was written by Jim McPherson to his wife, Mrs. Coney, dated December 26, 1914. In the next session, we are going to discuss about the exact letter in which Jim McPherson explained how he celebrated Christmas with the German soldiers. So children, let us enclose today's class with this. Meanwhile, you go through the lesson and complete the activity given below in this slide. The two questions are, number 1, for how long do you think Coney had kept Jim's letter? Give reasons for your answer. Number 2, why do you think the desk had been sold and when? Children, these two questions were the first two questions taken from textbook in page number 16. You have to frame your own answers and write it in an A4 sheet and start filing it so that we can discuss all the answers at the end of the lesson. So thank you children. Have a great day.